What's up guys, and welcome to today's video where I am going to be going over my grow tent right over here and how I use this thing to keep it cool in here. As you can see here on the thermostat, I am rocking a nice 73 degrees Fahrenheit in this apartment complex, and without that grow tent I am actually, I think it got up to like 82, 83. And as summer progresses here in Texas, it's going to get even hotter when we hit like August. And so I couldn't deal with the heat anymore. I had to figure something out. And hey kitty, we were doing a like a portable air conditioner. I had that wired up to the window, and it actually caused it to be more humid in here. And I didn't really like it. It wasn't really keeping up with the graphics cards. It was making it slightly cooler, but it was also eating about 1200 watts continuously, which could be used for another rig. So I did a bunch of research, tried figuring some stuff out, and I came to the grow tent idea and figured out how to get it set up. The first time I did it, I utterly failed. It was not good enough. It was way too hot in the grow tent. I wasn't pushing enough air. So in this video, I'm gonna show you guys how I have this thing set up. Maybe some tips and tricks for some of you guys that are thinking about getting this set up. That way I can share my struggles and hopefully you guys can avoid having these problems. So let's head on over to the grow tent over here and I'll show you how I have everything set up. All right, so this is my grow tent right over here. I will put the specs and a link. I think I got it off of Amazon, so I'll put that down in the description for you guys. It has a little window here, and I have this AC Infinity duct fan system. It is the 8-inch model, I believe, with the smart thermostat kind of thing here. I don't really use much of the smart features. The one thing that I do generally do is just like to see where the temps are at. So as you can see, we're hitting about 101 degrees Fahrenheit inside of here. Now we're gonna come over to the other side here. And as you guys can see, there are multiple holes for ventilation in this thing. So however you wanna set it up, whichever size, I believe those are like the 6-inch tubing sizes. And there's one down there, and then there's another one I believe on the other side. But right now I'm just using that to input power. I have a smart power reader here on that. That goes into one of the rigs, and then over here I have another smart power adapter. And basically that allows me to turn the rigs off and on remotely, which is going to be great because I'm actually going to be doing a lot of traveling for work again. And I need to be able to manage these things remotely. So I'm gonna open up the tent here for you guys to see. I have 2 rigs currently in here. This one is one of the first rigs I built. It's a little bit messy, all over the place. I have a little fan here cooling down these 2 Founder Editions. And then this is that 6-card 3070 rig. As you can see, a card is missing. Well, that card is actually in my main PC right now with a 3060. I'm trying to do some testing, and so I had to pull it out. But I will be putting it back in here. I'm letting all the heat out now, which kind of sucks, but it's okay. You see the temperature is rapidly dropping. So it has a temperature probe that I ran down through the bottom. And it is right here. This is the temperature probe. As you can see here, there's a bunch of holes. This right here is that AC Infinity ducting that I'm using. It does really well at keeping the heat inside. I have about 12 or 13 graphics cards in here right now. We're gonna go ahead and close this. Heat doesn't escape back into my apartment because I do like it to be nice and cool in here. But I'll show you how I have this ventilated. You can put, it did come with a like cover that you can put on here. which is great if you don't want to see any of the lights at night. However, this is in my kitchen, and at night I don't see the lights in my kitchen, so I could really care less. But for some of you that may want to put this somewhere else, you may want to think about how the light is set up. Alright, so I'm going to open this up here for you guys. So I'm going to set this down real quick right here. That way I can move some things. I'm going to move this for us. That way you can kind of see the back. So here we are. We have the AC Infinity fan in here, the duct fan with the AC Infinity branded venting. It's actually pretty nice venting materials and ducting, so I did like it and I decided to keep it. I had some other cheaper stuff and I felt like it wasn't keeping the heat insulated as well. So this stuff is great. The tube is not that long though, so you will have to make do. As you can see here, I have it running down the side and then out through here. I have a towel on here because I was worried about excess heat coming in from outside. I honestly have no idea if it's making a difference or not. This is how I have it set up. Because this is kind of sketchy, I know, but the way these windows are set up is really shitty. And so I had to essentially use these plastic pieces with some ducting tape to be able to make it airtight. And we still have some air leaks. Somewhere over here there's a small air leak, but it's really not big at all. But because of this, and maybe one day I will create a bigger outlet hole, but it hasn't been too big of a problem, I have to use this adapter. This is an 8-inch to 6-inch adapter. So it's converting this huge tube down in there, which creates some air pressure, but that fan is more than capable of dealing with it. So it's not a problem. You might be able to push more air and cool things a little bit quieter without that, but I can't for the life of me find a panel that has a 6-inch hole, or sorry, an 8-inch hole that this can fit in, and so I had to use that, which it works, not a problem. But none of my neighbors have complained or anything like that, so you can't really hear this outside. You can really only hear it inside, and the noise isn't actually this. This thing is really quiet for what it's doing. The other fans that I've used, I got some really cheap fans, and I will put those fans, I'll find it and I will put it up on the video here for you guys to see. But those fans were really cheap. Check out the cat. Those fans were really cheap, didn't push enough air, and my math was flawed. But now I thought about it a lot more and came to the conclusion it wasn't the grow tent that sucked. It was my fans that sucked. And I had two fans, one pushing and one blowing. And now I only have one fan, and it is just pushing air outside. In the future, when I leave this apartment complex and head on over to my house, which is still being built, I will eventually have an intake and an outtake. And hopefully I'm gonna take those plastic things, find something better, maybe some wood or something with some insulation. That way I can keep the air from coming inside even better, keep the heat from coming inside, and keeping it cool in the room where all my rigs are gonna go. And then potentially even in the garage as I slowly expand into there. But I am also looking at getting my own warehouse to put all the rigs that I have that are currently spread throughout this apartment and other places. Kind of want to consolidate everything. It makes it easier from a business standpoint. If you guys are going to be running as a business and not as a personal entity, it's better to have everything separate, because it gets kind of wonky when you do your deductions at the end of the year. And I just think it's because the IRS here in the US is not accustomed to crypto and probably won't ever be in the near future. So that's something you guys are gonna have to deal with if you do end up going that route. but keeping things separate will allow you to do deductions a lot easier. You won't really have to prove what you're using for power. So these power adapters that I have over here and down there, I use those power adapters to keep track of how much electricity I am using 24/7. That way I can prove to the IRS if I ever get audited, here's how much electricity I used. Here's how much electricity my whole apartment used. So right now, I think like 90% of the electricity I use goes to mining. My bill's about $400, $500 here. Still very profitable to mine compared to how much money I have to pay for everything. So we're still doing really great. Electricity is really cheap here in Texas compared to the rest of the country. I have friends in other states and countries that are unable to get the same rates and be as competitive, but it's still profitable for them. I think they're rocking about 10 to 11, even 12 cents per kilowatt hour. So mining is still viable. It's not the most profitable thing anymore. I think back in the day, a 1080 was rocking about $15 a day, which was awesome. And now we're only getting about $5 to $6 a day, or not from a 1080, I'm sorry, from a 3080. A 3080 is rocking about $5 a day now versus the $15 to $20 at the gas spikes all-time highs. Granted, those were just one-day events, but we were able to get like at least $15 a day from a 3080, and now we're looking at $5 to $6 a day if we're lucky. I wouldn't recommend buying a lot of cards now unless you can get them below MSRP. Then it's probably a good idea. Otherwise, you're going to have really high ROI times, and we don't really know what's going to happen after 1559 releases, and then if the Ethereum devs are going to push ETH2 faster, or if it's going to be like the normal thing where they say it's coming in a year, and here we are 3 years later and we still don't have Ethereum 2.0. So that's how I feel on that matter, but you can check out my EIP 1559 video if you want more details on that and how we're gonna proceed after this happens. But just for now, yeah, this is my grow tent. This is how I keep everything cool. I have about 4 1200 watt power supplies in there. Both of these I have to add for a lot of you guys. Be safe with your electricity. These outlets that I'm using down here and over here with the smart meters, they are on separate breakers. Every mining rig I have is on a separate breaker. I was very lucky, and this is also one of the reasons I chose this place. I have a massive breaker box. It is definitely overkill for this apartment, which comes in very handy for mining. I'm even thinking about turning that is my laundry room. Thinking about turning it into a mining facility also, and seeing how that goes. But yeah, this is the grow tent. If you guys plan on doing something like this, you can use this as like a template kind of thing. I don't know if it helps, but definitely I will put like links and descriptions and things like that down in the description. For this fan that I have over here, it pushes a lot of air. I think it's like an 800 CFM or something like that fan. And I'm only using it on setting 4. As you can see here, we're using setting 4 and it's about 105. It's fairly quiet, but it does ramp up significantly all the way to setting 10. And as you can see, we're gonna watch this. It's going to actually start pushing up as the fan ramps up. It's gonna get louder and louder. And now this tubing is basically shaking, but it is pushing out a metric ton of air. As you can see, the temperature is now dropping rapidly in there from the amount of air that is pushing out. So it does get very loud, but on setting 4, you can barely hear the thing. So now the mining rigs are louder than the fan, and this is at setting 4, which is what I use because I want to be able to sleep in the apartment. I do like sleeping, and so this quiet fan is amazing. The other fans I had were about 200 CFM fans. This thing, like I said, I think it's like 800 or higher, maybe even more. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've been using it, but I'll put that down there for you guys. But just amazing how quiet it is. The coil whine from the power supplies and the fans are louder than this thing, keeping everything cool. And just as a heads up for any of you guys that think 101 is way too hot for graphics cards, it is not, because that is Fahrenheit. So you have to remember that graphics cards measure their heat in Celsius. Now, 101 degrees Celsius would be immensely, like way too dang hot in there, but 101 Fahrenheit is not that hot. I can use 100-degree heat from outside to cool these cards. And that's what I do plan to do eventually when I get a push and pull system, using the outside air, coming inside, cooling the cards, heating up the air, and pushing it back outside. For something like that, you are going to need more CFM, but realistically, all you need to cool down graphics cards is air flow. You don't need the air to be cool. So that is a big misconception I see a lot of guys talking about how, oh, you need to get a portable AC and dump cooled air into your mining rigs or your apartment. It doesn't really matter, not even for longevity. You just have to make sure that the heat is able to take away the heat of the cards fast enough to keep the cards at a relatively low temperature. If you do that, you'll be fine. Now, if your cards are overheating, you don't have enough CFM, which stands for cubic feet per minute. So you need higher CFM to keep the cards cool. The ambient temperature is not as important as the movement of the air. You want to be able to refresh the air in your tent or your area fast enough to disperse heat. Now, the colder the air that you're using to cool the cards, the more heat it can absorb. And so if it's, let's say it's cold outside and we're pumping cold air in and expelling that air, it's going to be a lot more efficient. The fan's going to have to run slower than if I'm using 100-degree air, because it's able to suck up all that heat, because cold air has relatively low energy density compared to hot air. And that's why hot air doesn't absorb all that that's why hot air doesn't absorb all the heat from the graphics cards. And so you need faster air to be able to absorb more energy and expel it outside, unless you want to be really hot. So that's this in a nutshell. If you guys have any questions on how to set something up like this, let me know down below. If you want maybe another video on how to get everything started or anything like that, let me know down below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. If you've made it all the way to the end, you are my #1. You are the best, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.